and gentlemen, we will now listen to Lord Nicholas Stern, Professor of Economics and Government at the London School of Economics. Lord Stern will share his vision of the conditions to facilitate the collaboration of developing banks to achieve SDGs. Take a look.
Let me begin by thanking my good friend Rémi Rioux for bringing us all together for this very important gathering on finance in common. My subject is collaboration amongst the development banks for the purpose of delivering on the global goals, particularly the SDGs, and to take a systemic view of doing that. If we want to approach this question of collaboration for a purpose, we have to decide and be clear about what are the purposes and what are the tasks involved in delivering on those purposes. I think those purposes at the broad level are pretty clear. The Sustainable Development Goals themselves, the challenge on climate, in particular the Paris Agreement, and that involves going net zero as a world by 2050 if we're to get to 1.5 degrees. And it means now also the recovery from the immense crisis we face on COVID. We can and we must put those three together. Indeed, we will do much better if we think about putting all three together. So our recovery from COVID must be sustainable and it must be building a bridge to a much better world. So that's at a broad level the purpose and the task. Within that, I hope it's clear that the building of sustainable infrastructure is absolutely central. Water, obviously crucial for the Sustainable Development Goals on health, education, gender, and much more. Energy on transport, crucial for development, overcoming poverty, and of course, for the climate goals. So wherever you look at sustainable infrastructure, you find that there is a powerful impact on several of the Sustainable Development Goals. The second point when we think about these purposes is urgency and scale. The world's infrastructure will double in the next 20 years or so. If it looks anything like the infrastructure we have at the moment, then the Paris objectives will be way, way out of reach. We would be headed for well over 3 degrees, let alone well below 2 degrees or 1.5. So urgency and scale is absolutely critical. You can do your sums in many ways, but we're talking about investments per annum of a number of $1 trillion a year, and we have to think of our development banks as influencing those investments so that they give a powerful push in the directions of the SDGs, climate and recovery from COVID. So the next question then is very natural. How do we go to scale? How do we achieve that urgency? And let me point to 5 broad headings. Obviously, I don't have the time to go into the detail on any of them. First is the macro. We live in a world with wonderful investment opportunities, but we need good policies, good investment climate to translate those into action. And we need the right kind of finance in the right place at the right time. The world has plenty of savings. It just has to be allocated in the right way. And there are real challenges there where the NDBs can do a tremendous amount. Technology, whether it's energy, transport, digital, and beyond, can play a very powerful role in going to scale, particularly in the world of so much better communications and digital management. Systems themselves, thirdly, is in terms of the big areas, systems, cities, land, transport, energy. If we manage those well, they will be absolutely critical on going to scale on the purposes we need, Sustainable Development Goals, climate, recovery from COVID. What we call country platforms are absolutely essential, where a country sets out its basic sense of direction, the broad priorities for investment, and particularly infrastructure investment, so the different players can see with more confidence how their investments will play into the bigger story and be complementary to the bigger story. And finally, and fifthly, on going to scale, the private sector will be absolutely central. They will make the majority of investment. So any discussion of how to go to scale must involve how to promote and support and collaborate with the private sector. So that's the purpose. Those are the ways of going to scale. So what can the development banks do? Well, they must work much better in a group. They must collaborate. Sometimes that will mean pooling resources to tackle a problem. So you could pool resources to take different kinds of risks and play different kinds of roles in a project. You could work together to build the country platforms and help get the right kind of investment climate in place. So collaboration by pooling resources, working together. Sometimes it will be a division of labor. There may be particular skills in particular places where one of the banks could play or one of the development finance institutions could play a leading role. From my own experience, I was chief economist there for 6 years, the EBRD became very good at energy efficiency. So there might be division of labor. That's another way to collaborate. A third way to collaborate is to share advice, to share each other's wisdom and experience, to think about what they're learning, what we have learned together. That's another way of collaborating. Whichever way you look at it, that extra collaboration is crucial to work much better as a group. And it was a big conclusion from our G20 Eminent Persons Group on the reform of the international financial systems that they work much better as a group. But we also have to recognize that the scale of the challenges we face requires a major expansion in the system of MDBs and DFIs. That major expansion is absolutely fundamental to influencing and participating in investments on the trillions that are going to be crucial to deliver on the SDGs and on climate. So we have an imperative to work better as a group. We have imperative to expand the facilities and the ability to finance of the MDBs and the DFIs working together. And that points directly to a grand bargain. These banks, these are public banks, they have shareholders which are countries. Those countries must get together and do two things: insist on better collaboration between MDBs and DFIs, insist on better collaboration, help with the better collaboration, whilst at the same time expanding in a very powerful way over the next 5 or 10 years the kinds of resources that they have so that they really can invest on the scale that's necessary. In these enormous challenges that we face, the MDBs and the DFIs will be absolutely essential. Now is the time for them to collaborate, and now is the time for their shareholders, the countries, to empower them. Thank you very much.